Okay, imagine this with me for a minute. Suppose I'm sitting here at the table or kitchen table with a child, and there's a big box of Legos sitting between us. The child has spent all afternoon building a beautiful house. Not just any house either. This house has everything. There's a front door, some windows, maybe a little garden out front, and probably some strange room on the roof that makes absolutely no sense to me. But apparently it is very important. Then suddenly, crash. The whole thing falls apart. Pieces everywhere. Now, what do I do? What do I say? That's okay. Just start over. That sounds reasonable, doesn't it? But what does starting over actually mean? Do we pull out the instructions and build exactly the same house again? Same walls, same roof, same parts that weren't very strong the first time? And what happens if we build it exactly the same way? Wouldn't there be a pretty good chance that it could fall apart exactly the same way again? So maybe I'd ask the child something different. What part of your house did you really like? Maybe the answer is, I like the big window. Okay. Then let's keep the big window. What didn't you like? Maybe the child says, the roof kept falling off. Well, do we put the same roof back on? Probably not. Maybe this time we make it stronger. Then I might ask, was there something you wish you had put in the house the first time? Maybe the answer is a bigger bedroom, or a garage, or a swimming pool right in the middle of the living room. Okay, maybe we need to discuss that swimming pool idea. But isn't that rebuilding? We're still using the same or some of the same pieces. We're keeping what worked. We're getting rid of what didn't. And now we're adding something that we didn't know we wanted when we built it the first time. That's when the expression, don't restart, rebuild, started making more sense to me. Because I started wondering, haven't I done exactly the same thing in my own life? Something doesn't work out. Something ends. Something changes. And what do I tell myself? Okay, Carol Ann, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and start all over again. I've probably said that 100 times. But now I'm wondering, what if starting again isn't always the answer? What if I stand back for a minute first and look at all those Lego pieces and scattered across the floor? Which pieces of my life actually worked? Which ones didn't? What did I keep trying to make fit, even though it never really fit in the first place? That's an interesting question for me, because there have definitely been things I've repeated. The same thing the same reactions, the same fears. And then I've wondered why I ended up feeling the same way again. Isn't that a little like rebuilding the same wobbly Lego roof and then acting surprised when it falls off? Maybe that's what I mean when I say restarting can sometimes feel like same shit, different day. Nothing really changes. I just started again. But rebuilding feels different to me. Rebuilding means I get to look at what happened, not punish myself for it, not pretend it didn't happen, just look at it and see what worked, what didn't, and what did I learn? What would I do differently now? And I think I'd ask that child another question. Do we have to throw away the whole house because one part didn't work? Of course not. So why do I sometimes think I have to throw away whole parts of myself when something in my life hasn't worked? There are things I want to keep. There are experiences that taught me something. There are parts of myself that I actually really like. Why would I throw those away? But maybe there are other pieces that I've carried around for years simply because I've always had them. And that's where I probably hold up one little Lego block and ask, does this piece still belong in the house? That's such a simple question. But maybe it's not such a simple question when I turn it around and ask it about my own life. Does this belief still belong? Does this fear still belong? Does this way of thinking still belong? Or am I only putting it back because that's where it has always been? I don't know. Maybe that's really what rebuilding is. Not destroying everything, not pretending the old house never existed, and definitely not pretending I suddenly know exactly how to build the perfect one. Maybe rebuilding is simply being willing to look at the pieces before putting them back together. And wouldn't it be interesting if we could do that with our lives? Instead of immediately saying, here I go again, maybe I could ask myself, wait a minute, do I actually want to build this the same way again? Because now I know something I didn't know before. I have more experience. I've made mistakes. I've changed my mind about things. I've learned things about myself. So wouldn't it be a little strange to have all that new knowledge and still build everything exactly the way I did before? Maybe that's the difference. Restarting says, let's do it again. Rebuilding asks, now that I know more, how do I want to do it this time? And strangely enough, I think explaining it with a little pile of Legos finally made me understand the phrase myself. So now I'm curious. If all the pieces of one part of life were sitting on the table in front of me, which ones would I put back? Which ones would I leave on the table? And what new piece might I finally be ready to add?